The bathroom mirror showed Maya Torres what the world wasn't supposed to see. 5:47 in the morning, Saturday, and the fluorescent bulb overhead buzzed like a dying wasp. Her left eye had swollen shut completely, the lid stretched tight over fluid that made the socket look like a rotten plum. Purple spread down her cheekbone in finger-shaped shadows. The split in her lower lip had crusted over during the night, dark red against brown skin gone pale from shock. She was 8 years old and weighed 60 pounds. Maya lifted her pink hoodie carefully, wincing as fabric scraped across ribs that screamed with each breath. Three dark ovals marked her torso where she'd hit the stairs, one after another, when Vincent's shove sent her tumbling. The bruises looked like continents on a map she didn't want to read. Lower, near her hip, a circular burn the size of a quarter showed raw pink flesh where Vincent's cigarette had kissed her skin a week ago. He'd smiled when he did it, told her it would teach her to remember to turn off the television. Her fingers traced the outline of handprints on her throat. Not Vincent's hands this time, his thumbs. He'd grabbed her neck after the glass shattered, lifted her off the ground while her feet kicked air and her lungs burned for oxygen she couldn't reach. 8 seconds. She'd counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, trying to remember what her second-grade teacher said about staying calm during emergencies. At 7 Mississippi, black spots bloomed across her vision like ink drops in water. At 8, Vincent dropped her. The hoodie was a gift from her real father, Daniel Torres, given to her on her 6th birthday 2 months before the construction crane cable snapped and dropped 3 tons of steel on him. She'd worn it so many times the pink had faded to something closer to salmon, the fabric soft as skin. Daniel used to say pink was the color of cherry blossoms in spring, strong enough to crack concrete as they grew. Maya didn't feel strong. She felt like something already cracked, pieces held together only by fear of what came next if she fell apart completely. Through the thin bathroom door, she could hear Vincent snoring on the living room couch. The wet, rattling sound of a man who drunk himself unconscious. 12 empty beer bottles on the coffee table. She'd counted those too last night, while pretending to sleep on her bedroom floor. 12 bottles meant he'd wake up angry, head pounding, looking for someone to blame. Her mother, Emma, had left for work an hour ago. 2 jobs meant Emma saw sunrise from the kitchen of Johnny's Diner on weekdays and the stockroom of Save Mart on weekends. 2 jobs meant Maya spent a lot of time alone with Vincent. 2 jobs meant the electricity stayed on and the rent got paid, but it also meant Emma's exhausted face at night, her defeated silence when she saw new bruises and accepted Maya's lies about being clumsy. Maya pulled the hoodie down, zipped it to her chin. The motion made her ribs shriek. She bit her lip to keep from crying out, tasted old blood and knew. Today was career day at Lincoln Elementary. Every kid in Mrs. Patterson's 3rd-grade class would bring a parent to talk about their job. Sarah Chen's mom was a surgeon. Brandon Mitchell's dad fixed cars. Even quiet Leo Garcia had his uncle coming, a firefighter with stories about saving people from burning buildings. Maya had nobody. Emma couldn't take time off. Vincent wasn't her father and wouldn't pretend to be, not for a school event he called pointless liberal brainwashing. Maya would sit alone at her desk while 41 other kids showed off their families. Proof they belonged to something bigger than themselves. Unless the thought had come to her 3 nights ago during another dinner where Vincent criticized every bite she took. She'd seen them last Saturday morning, riding past her bedroom window in formation, 15 motorcycles, leather-clad riders, engines roaring like thunder given form. Hell's Angels. Her neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, had crossed herself and muttered prayers in Spanish. The news said they were dangerous. Vincent said they were criminals who should be locked up. But Maya had watched them park at the Crossroads Diner 6 blocks away, had watched through binoculars borrowed from her dead father's closet as they filed inside, laughing, hugging, acting like people who actually liked each other. They met there every Saturday at 6 in the morning. The internet said so. 3 different websites about motorcycle clubs confirmed it. Maya knew what dangerous looked like. Dangerous was Vincent's smile before he burned her. Dangerous was the way he blocked doorways when he wanted her to feel trapped. Dangerous was living in her own house, afraid to breathe too loud. The bikers, they might be scary, but scary wasn't always the same as dangerous. And Maya was out of options. She took $7 from the change jar in the kitchen, money saved from Emma's tips, coins Maya had been collecting for a bicycle she'd never buy now. Vincent didn't stir as she crept past him. His mouth hung open, a line of drool connecting his chin to the cushion. The smell of stale alcohol made her stomach turn. Outside, October morning air bit through her hoodie. Riverside, California, waking up slow under a sky going from black to gray. Maya's breath came out in small clouds. Each step jarred her ribs. The walk to Crossroads Diner was 1.2 miles. She'd measured it on her mother's phone last night. Memorized the route. Left on Oak, right on Maple, straight down Highway 50 until the truck stop appeared. Her sneakers slapped pavement. A jogger passed, didn't look twice at a small girl alone before dawn. A delivery truck rumbled by, brake lights flaring red. Maya counted her steps to distract from pain. 100, 200, 300. At 523, she had to stop, leaning against the bus shelter while her vision swam and ribs ground together like broken teeth. She thought about turning back, going home, hiding in her room until Monday, when school would swallow her into routine again. But then what? Wait for Vincent to get angrier? Wait until he squeezed her throat for 9 seconds instead of 8? Wait until the next time she fell downstairs, only this time she didn't get up? Maya started walking again. The Crossroads Diner sat exactly where Highway 50 intersected Route 12, a squat building with chrome siding and neon signs advertising breakfast 24 hours. The parking lot held scattered cars and, on the east side, 15 motorcycles in a perfect row. Harleys mostly, big heavy machines that gleamed even in pre-dawn light. Maya recognized the patches on the seats. Hell's Angels, California chapter, red and white stitched into leather. Through the diner's windows she could see them. 15 men at a long table in the back, plates of eggs and bacon, coffee cups steaming. They looked like fathers, grandfathers, some of them. One had white hair down to his shoulders. Another had a beard that would make Santa Claus jealous. The biggest one sat at the head of the table, salt and pepper hair cut military short, a scar running from his left eye to his jaw. That one looked like someone who could stop Vincent. Maya's hand touched the diner door. Cold metal under her palm. Behind her, the sun was starting to rise, painting the sky the same pink as her hoodie. Cherry blossoms. Strong enough to crack concrete. She pulled the door open. The bell above chimed, bright and cheerful. Completely wrong for what Maya was about to do. Conversation stopped. Forks paused halfway to mouths. 15 pairs of eyes turned toward her, and Maya felt her courage start to drain like water through her fingers. The diner smelled like coffee and grease and something else, something that reminded her of her father's workshop before he died. Motor oil and leather and the particular scent of men who worked with their hands. A waitress named Kelly, according to her name tag, stood behind the counter, coffee pot frozen in mid-pour. Maya's feet moved on their own, carrying her across the black and white checkered floor. Past empty booths, past a trucker reading a newspaper, past a couple holding hands over pancakes. Straight to the table where 15 Hell's Angels sat watching her approach like she was a ghost that had wandered in from the highway. Up close, they looked bigger, older, more real. The man at the head of the table had eyes the color of winter sky, and they took in everything. Her swollen face, her careful way of moving, the way she held her left arm tight against her ribs. Maya's voice came out smaller than she wanted, barely loud enough to carry over the clatter of dishes and the hiss of the grill. "Excuse me, are you the Hell's Angels?" The big man set down his coffee cup. The movement was slow, deliberate, like he didn't want to scare her. "We're the Hell's Angels, sweetheart." His voice was deep, textured like gravel, but gentle in a way that made Maya's throat tight. "What's your name?" "Maya Torres. I'm 8. I go to Lincoln Elementary." The man's eyes went to her face again, studying the damage. Other men at the table leaned forward. One of them, younger with dark skin and a phoenix tattooed on his neck, had tears already forming. An older man with white hair and a face like weathered wood covered his mouth with one hand. "Who hurt you, Maya?" The question came from a different biker, this one with the posture of someone who'd worn a uniform once. His eyes were cop eyes, trained to notice details, to build cases from evidence. My stepdad, Vincent. The words tumbled out fast, like if she said them slow, she'd lose the nerve. Yesterday, I broke a glass. He said I was useless and pushed me down the stairs. He, her hand went to her throat. He grabbed me here. I couldn't breathe. Silence fell like a physical weight. One of the bikers stood up, walked a few paces away, his shoulders shaking. Another pressed his palms flat against the table, jaw clenched so tight Maya could see muscles jumping in his cheeks. The big man's hands curled into fists, then deliberately uncurled. What's your name again, honey? Maya. Maya, my name is Jack Sullivan. My friends call me Reaper. He nodded to the others. This is my family, my brothers. Do you understand what I'm asking you right now? Maya shook her head. I'm asking why you came here, what you need from us. This was it, the moment where she either asked or she didn't, where she was either brave like her father said she could be, or she was small and scared forever. Today is career day at my school. Everyone's bringing their parents to talk about jobs. Maya's voice cracked. I don't have anyone. My dad died 2 years ago. My mom works all day. And Vincent isn't my father. I thought maybe if one of you came with me, people would know. They'd know someone was watching. That I'm not alone. That he can't. She couldn't finish. The tears came too fast, hot and shameful. And Maya tried to wipe them away, but that made her ribs scream and she gasped, doubling over. Jack was out of his seat, kneeling beside her before she could blink. His hands hovered near her shoulders but didn't touch, asking permission. Can I? Maya nodded. Jack's hands settled on her upper arms, steady and warm and completely different from Vincent's grabbing, hurting hands. He guided her to sit in the booth next to where he had been standing. Someone, the one with the phoenix tattoo, slid a glass of orange juice toward her. Drink, slow sips. Maya obeyed. The juice was cold and sweet and made her realize she hadn't eaten since yesterday's school lunch. Jack sat across from her, leaning forward so they were eye level. Maya, I need you to listen very carefully. Can you do that? She nodded. What Vincent did to you, what he's been doing to you, that stops today. Right now, you're not going back to that house until he's gone. You're not facing him alone ever again. Do you understand me? But my mom needs him. For the money, for your mom needs her daughter alive more than she needs his money. This from the cop-eyed biker. Trust us on that. Jack's winter sky eyes never left Maya's face. Here's what's going to happen. First, we're going to call your mom. Then we're taking you to the hospital to document everything he did. After that, Vincent is going to jail. And for career day? Jack's scarred face split into something that might have been a smile if it wasn't so full of protective rage. We're all coming, every single one of us. Maya's good eye went wide. All of you? How many people at your school, sweetheart? 42 kids in my class. Jack pulled out his phone, started scrolling contacts. We're going to need more than 15. The Phoenix tattoo biker spoke up, his voice rough, like he'd been crying or trying not to. I'll call Diego in Riverside. Marcus, you hit up the San Bernardino chapter. Roy, get on the phone with the ladies. Names flew around the table. Phones appeared. Men who'd been eating breakfast 30 seconds ago were suddenly on a mission, voices urgent and low. We need everyone, Jack said, standing now, phone to his ear. Every brother and sister who can ride. This isn't just about a school event. This is about making a statement. Showing this little girl and every person in that building that she has a family now. A real family, one that protects its own. The white-haired biker, Roy, Maya thought his name was, wiped his eyes roughly. When he spoke, his voice shook. That kid's got more courage in her pinky finger than most grown men have in their whole body. Walking in here like that, asking strangers for help. That's warrior spirit right there. The cop-eyed one stared at Maya with an expression she couldn't read. Pain, maybe, or memory. My little sister was 8 when my old man started on her. His words came out quiet, meant for the table, but landing on Maya like stones. By the time anyone noticed, by the time anyone did anything, it was too late. I won't let that happen again. Not on my watch. Jack made 3 calls in rapid succession. Maya sipped her orange juice and watched this family of strangers mobilize like soldiers preparing for war. Because that's what this was, she realized. War. Vincent had declared it when he first put his hands on her. The Hells Angels were simply choosing sides. Kelly, the waitress, appeared with a plate stacked high. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, hash browns, toast. On the house, sweetheart. You eat as much as you want. Maya tried to protest, but her stomach betrayed her, growling loud enough for Jack to hear. He gestured to the food. Eat. We've got time before career day starts. She ate. Each bite hurt, her jaw sore from where her face had hit the stairs. But she ate anyway, fueling a body that had survived 8 years of life and was determined to survive more. Around her, the bikers kept making pauses. She heard numbers climbing, 20, 25, 35. Jack sat back down, his phone call finished. Maya, I need your mom's number. We have to tell her what's happening. Maya recited the digits from memory. Jack dialed, put it on speaker. 3 rings, 4, then a tired voice, familiar and beloved. Hello? Mrs. Torres, my name is Jack Sullivan. I'm with the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. He paused, letting that sink in. Your daughter Maya is with us at the Crossroads Diner. She's safe, but she's hurt badly. She told us what Vincent's been doing. The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a scream and a scream, grief and guilt and horror all at once. Oh God, oh my God, I knew something was wrong. She's been so quiet lately, so careful around him, but I work such long hours. I'm barely home. Emma's voice fractured. Where is she? Is she okay? We're taking her to County General ER. We need to document everything. Get her examined properly. Jack's tone stayed measured, calm. Mrs. Torres, Vincent Morrison is hurting your daughter. She has 3 cracked ribs, a black eye, a split lip, and bruises on her neck where he tried to choke her. Silence. Then ragged breathing. Jennifer? Jack's face showed confusion. My name is Emma Torres. I apologize. Emma, are you able to meet us at the hospital? I'm at work. Save Mart on Lincoln. I can be there in 20 minutes. We'll wait for you. Jack's eyes met Maya's across the table. Emma, your daughter is the bravest person I've met in my 52 years on this earth. She walked into a diner full of strangers and asked for help. That takes courage most adults will never have. Maya heard her mother crying on the other end, small, broken sounds. Thank you for... Emma couldn't finish. No need to thank us. We're family now. That's what family does. Jack ended the call, slipped his phone into his jacket pocket. You doing okay, Maya? She nodded, even though okay felt like a word from another language, something she'd forgotten how to speak. The Phoenix Tattoo biker slid into the booth next to Jack. Up close, Maya could see he was younger than the others, maybe mid-30s. His eyes held something familiar, the look of someone who'd lived through nightmares and survived them. My name's Carlos, he said. Carlos Mendez. People call me Ghost. Why? A sad smile touched his face. Because I used to be invisible. Bounced through 23 foster homes before I turned 18. Nobody wanted the angry brown kid who broke things. The Hells Angels took me in when I had nothing. Gave me a home, a family. He looked at Jack. Now we do the same for others. Roy, the white-haired one, leaned over from the next booth. I'm 78 years old, little lady. My father beat me every day from age 5 to 17. Used his belt mostly, sometimes his fists. I thought that was normal. Thought that's what dads did. He lifted his shirt, showing a back crisscrossed with scars, old and silver against skin gone loose with age. Took me 40 years to learn that real strength isn't about hurting people. It's about protecting them. The cop-eyed biker spoke next. Marcus Washington, saint to my brothers, used to be a police detective. 15 years on the force. His jaw tightened. My little sister Alicia died when she was 16. Her boyfriend strangled her. I got there 10 minutes too late. Found her on the bathroom floor, bruises on her neck, just like... He stopped, looked at Maya. Just like yours. I swore I'd never be late again. Maya's throat closed up. These men, these supposed criminals, these people the world called dangerous, they were broken, just like her. Scarred, damaged, survivors. How many more? Jack's question pulled her back to the present. Marcus checked his phone. 43 confirmed. Diego's bringing a 12 from Riverside. San Bernardino chapter is sending 15. The ladies are rolling 8 deep. 50 total. Jack's expression was fierce, proud. We show up at that school like an army. We make damn sure every person there, every parent, every teacher, every kid knows that Maya Torres is protected now. That she has 50 fathers, 50 mothers, 50 siblings who will move heaven and earth to keep her safe. 50. The number seemed impossible. Maya had asked for one, just one person to stand beside her for a few hours. Instead, she was getting an entire battalion. I don't understand why you're doing this, she whispered. You don't know me. Jack reached across the table, his calloused hand dwarfing Maya's small one. We know you enough. We know what it's like to be small and scared and hurt by people who should protect us. We know what it's like to feel alone. His grip was gentle, careful not to cause pain. You're not alone anymore, Maya. You got that? Never again. The ER at County General smelled like antiseptic and fear. Maya sat on an examination table, paper crinkling under her, while Dr. Sarah Chen, a coincidence of names that made Maya's chest ache, pressed carefully around her ribs. Each touch sent lightning bolts of pain through her torso. These 3 ribs are cracked, not broken. Dr. Chen's voice was professional, but Maya could hear anger underneath, tightly controlled. Severe contusions across her back and torso. The black eye will heal, but another centimeter to the left and she could have lost vision permanently. The doctor's hands moved to Maya's neck, fingers tracing the bruise pattern. Someone put their hands around this child's throat and squeezed. The petechiae in her eyes indicate strangulation. Another 10 seconds and we'd be having a very different conversation in a very different room. Jack stood against the wall, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Carlos paced like a caged animal. Marcus had stepped outside to make calls, but Maya could see him through the window, phone pressed to his ear, other hand gesturing sharply. Emma Torres sat beside the examination table, holding Maya's hand and crying silently. She looked smaller than Maya remembered, diminished by guilt and exhaustion, dark circles under her eyes, graying hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. Nurse's scrubs from her first job, still smelling faintly of diner grease. I should have seen it, Emma whispered, not for the first time. I should have known. Dr. Chen handed Jack a folder thick with papers, full documentation, photos, medical assessment, radiographs of the ribs. I'm mandating a CPS report and immediate police involvement. Already done. Marcus stepped back into the room. Badge in hand, technically retired but always carried. Detective Lisa Huang is on her way. She's good people. She'll make sure the report gets to the right desk. Thank you, Dr. Chen looked at Maya. You're very brave, sweetheart. What you did today, asking for help, that saved your life. Maya didn't feel brave. She felt tired, sore, empty. Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, face going white. Vincent, he's calling. Don't answer. Jack's voice left no room for argument. Let it go to voicemail. They waited. The phone buzzed again and again, then stopped. 5 minutes later, Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, nodded. Understood. Thanks, Lisa. He looked at Jack. 3 units just picked up Vincent at your house, he said to Emma. He woke up, found Maya gone, started tearing the place apart. Neighbor called it in as a domestic disturbance. When police arrived, he got belligerent, resisted arrest. Good, Carlos growled. That adds charges. Multiple counts of child abuse, domestic violence, assault with intent to cause serious bodily harm, and strangulation. Marcus counted them off on his fingers. He's looking at 8 to 12 years if convicted. Emma made a sound like she'd been punched. I brought him into our home. I let him near my baby. Jack moved from the wall, crouched beside Emma's chair. He fooled you. That's what abusers do. They're charming until they're not. They make promises until those promises become threats. You couldn't have known. I should have believed her. Emma looked at Maya, eyes red and swollen. 2 weeks ago, you told me you fell down the stairs. I knew. Somewhere in my heart, I knew you were lying, but I was so tired and I needed the money and I told myself, her voice broke. I told myself it was an accident. It wasn't your fault, Mama. Maya's words came out small but firm. Vincent's good at pretending. He pretended to love us, but he didn't. He just liked having someone to hurt. Dr. Chen finished her examination, gave Maya children's Tylenol for the pain, and strict instructions about rib care. No running, no rough play, deep breaths every hour to prevent pneumonia. Come back if you have trouble breathing or if the pain gets worse. They left the hospital at 9:30. 50 motorcycles had gathered in the parking lot during the hour Maya spent being examined. 50 riders stood beside their bikes, men and women, young and old, every shade of skin color, united by patches that declared them family. Jack lifted Maya onto his bike, settled her behind him. Someone had found a helmet small enough to fit her head. Rosa, a woman with gray-streaked black hair and eyes that had seen everything, adjusted the strap under Maya's chin. You hold on tight, Mija. Arms around Jack's waist. Don't let go. Maya wrapped her arms around Jack's solid frame, felt the leather of his jacket warm from the sun. The bike rumbled to life beneath her, powerful and alive. Around them, 49 other engines roared in response, a symphony of mechanical thunder. They rode in formation, 10 columns of 5 bikes each, Jack at the front, Carlos and Marcus flanking him, Rosa leading the left column. Roy, despite his age, riding strong in the right column. They moved through Riverside like a funeral procession, solemn and deliberate. Cars pulled over. People stopped on sidewalks to stare. Someone filmed from a coffee shop window. Lincoln Elementary appeared ahead, a low brick building with colorful murals of children holding hands. The parking lot was already half full, parents arriving for career day. As the motorcycles turned in, conversation stopped. Parents grabbed their children's hands. Teachers stepped out of the building, shading their eyes against the morning sun. Principal Rebecca Anderson stood at the front entrance, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and the posture of someone who dealt with every crisis imaginable. Her expression shifted from alarm to confusion to something like understanding as she watched 50 Harleys park in perfect rows. The engines cut simultaneously. Silence fell, broken only by the ticking of cooling metal and distant traffic. Maya slid off Jack's bike, her ribs protesting every movement. She stood between Jack and Rosa, facing the principal who'd taught at this school for 25 years and had never seen anything remotely like this. Principal Anderson walked forward slowly. Her eyes took in Maya's bandaged face, the way the small girl held herself carefully, the hospital bracelet still on her wrist. Then she looked at the 50 bikers, these leather-clad strangers who'd descended on her school like avenging angels. Mr. Sullivan, Jack Sullivan, these are my family, Hell's Angels California chapter. Jack's hand rested protectively on Maya's shoulder. We're here for career day, for Maya. All 50 of you? She's got 50 family members now. Jack's voice carried across the parking lot. We figured we'd all show up to support her. That a problem? Anderson looked at Maya again, really looked. Saw the fear and hope warring in the girl's expression. Saw the desperate courage it took to stand here, broken and scared, asking for dignity. The principal had been teaching long enough to recognize a crossroads when she saw one. She could turn these bikers away, follow protocol, protect the status quo, or she could do what her heart screamed was right. No problem at all. Her voice came out thick with emotion. Welcome to Lincoln Elementary, all 50 of you. She turned to her assistant, who stood frozen in the doorway. Call the district office. Tell them we need the gymnasium. And get every staff member here now. We're about to have the most important career day this school has ever seen. The gymnasium had been set up with tables arranged in a large circle. Each parent station displayed tools of their trade, a stethoscope for Dr. Morrison, legal briefs for Attorney Hughes, a laptop and coding books for Mr. Patel. 42 third graders sat cross-legged on the floor while parents took turns presenting. The air smelled like floor polish and anticipation. Mrs. Patterson, Maya's teacher for the past 2 months, stood at her desk checking the presentation schedule. She was a veteran educator, 17 years in third grade, confident she'd seen everything. Then the gymnasium doors opened and 50 Hell's Angels walked in. The room fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You could have heard a child breathe. Parents turned, mouths falling open. Children stared, some in fear, others in awe. Mrs. Patterson's clipboard clattered to the floor. Jack led the procession, Maya's hand in his. The other 49 bikers followed in a formation that spoke of military precision and shared purpose. They didn't swagger. They didn't threaten. They simply existed, taking up space like a wall of leather and denim in unwavering resolve. Mrs. Patterson found her voice, though it wavered. Maya, who are... These are my family, Mrs. Patterson, for career day. Maya's voice was quiet, but carried in the shocked silence. They're here to talk about what they do. Principal Anderson entered behind the bikers, nodding to Mrs. Patterson. Please make room for our guests. The other parents shifted, creating space. Jack guided Maya to an empty section of floor, helped her sit. 50 bikers arranged themselves behind her in a semicircle, a protective barrier between Maya and the world. Mrs. Patterson stared at Maya, seeing her for the first time in weeks. The bandage over the eye, the split lip, the careful way she moved, the teacher's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, honey, I should have. Why didn't I? She hid it well. Marcus stepped forward, his cop instincts reading the room. These kids learn to be invisible to survive. They learn to smile through pain, to make excuses for bruises, to protect the people hurting them because they don't know any other way. His eyes swept across the gathered parents and teachers. It's not your fault, ma'am. But now you know, now we all know. And that changes everything. The career day presentations continued. A dentist showed how to brush properly. An architect explained blueprints. A chef demonstrated knife skills with plastic vegetables. All of it felt surreal with 50 bikers watching from the back of the room, their presence transforming something ordinary into something electric with unspoken tension. When Mrs. Patterson called Maya's name, the girl stood slowly. Jack stood with her, and the other 49 bikers rose as one, a wave of solidarity that made several parents gasp. Jack walked to the center of the circle, Maya beside him. He looked at the 42 children, most of them watching with wide eyes. How many of you think we're scary? 35 hands shot up. Honest, innocent. Jack nodded. Good, because sometimes the people who need to be scared should be. He paused, letting that sink in. But we're not here to hurt anyone. We're here because Maya was brave enough to ask for help, and we answered. He told them about the Hell's Angels charity work. Toys for Tots runs at Christmas, disaster relief after the wildfires, rebuilding homes for families who'd lost everything. He explained how the club ran programs to help domestic violence victims escape safely, how they'd escorted women and children to shelters, provided security, stood between the abused and their abusers. We're not a gang. We're a brotherhood, a family. We take care of our own and we protect people who can't protect themselves. Jack's hand settled on Maya's shoulder. This morning, Maya came to us, alone, hurting, terrified. She asked us to be her dad for one day, to show up for career day so people would know someone was watching. Someone cared. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of parents and teachers. We're not here for just one day. We're here forever. Because that's what family means. Roy stepped forward, moving slowly, his age showing in the careful way he walked. I'm 78 years old. My father beat me every day from age 5 to 17. Took me 40 years to realize that real strength isn't about hurting people. It's about protecting them. Carlos spoke next. 23 foster homes before I turned 18. Nobody wanted the angry kid who broke things. These people, he gestured to the bikers, they gave me a family when I had nothing. Marcus's voice came out rough, raw with old grief. My little sister was 16 when her boyfriend strangled her. I was a cop. I should have seen it. I should have stopped it. I got there 10 minutes too late. His eyes found Maya. I won't be late again. Not for Maya, not for any child who needs help. A hand went up, small, trembling. Brandon Mitchell, a boy Maya knew slightly from reading group. He had dark hair that always looked uncombed and eyes that never quite met anyone's gaze. Yes? Mrs. Patterson's voice was gentle. My dad hits my mom. Brandon's words came out in a rush, like he'd been holding them in forever and finally found the courage to let them go. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. The gymnasium erupted in gasps. Brandon's father, Eric Mitchell, stood from his position near the architect's table. He was a big man, linebacker shoulders, hands like hammers. Brandon, that's enough. The warning in his voice was clear. Marcus moved between Eric and his son with the smooth speed of someone who'd done this before. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. You can't tell me what to do with my kid. Eric's face flushed red. Actually, I can, and I am. Marcus didn't raise his voice. Didn't have to. Sit down, now. 15 bikers shifted position, creating a wall between Eric and the rest of the room. The movement was fluid, practiced, terrifying in its implication. Eric looked at the wall of leather and muscle and slowly sank back into his chair. Brandon's mother, Sarah Mitchell, stood shakily from where she'd been sitting with the other parents. She was a small woman, thin in a way that spoke of stress rather than health. Her left eye had a fading yellow bruise that makeup almost covered. I want to leave. Her voice shook but held. I've wanted to leave for 3 years, but I didn't know how. I didn't know who to ask. Please, help me leave. Rosa moved to Sarah's side, wrapped an arm around the trembling woman. We've got you, Hermana. You and your boy. We have safe houses, legal support, everything you need. Eric stood again, anger rolling off him in waves. You can't just take my family. They're not property, sir. Jack's voice cut through the room like a blade. You have 2 choices. Walk out that door right now with what's left of your dignity, or wait for the police we're calling. Principal Anderson appeared at the gymnasium door, phone in hand. Officers are already on their way, Mr. Mitchell. I suggest you follow Mr. Sullivan's advice. Eric looked around the room. 50 bikers watching him with eyes that promised consequences if he made the wrong move. Teachers forming a protective barrier around the children. Parents, some sympathetic to Sarah, others uncomfortable but silent, blocking potential exits. He was trapped, exposed. His violence made public in a way that ended his power. He walked out. Slammed the gymnasium door hard enough to rattle the basketball hoop. The sound of his truck starting and tearing out of the parking lot echoed through the building. Sarah collapsed, just folded in on herself, years of tension finally released. Rosa and another biker woman caught her, lowered her gently to the floor. Brandon ran to his mother, wrapped his arms around her neck, and sobbed. Jack turned to face the room. How many of you have seen something and said nothing? A bruise on a child's face? A withdrawn kid who won't make eye contact? A parent who's always wearing long sleeves even in summer? He paused, letting the silence stretch. How many of you noticed and looked away? Slowly, hands began to rise. Not all, but enough. 19 of 38 parents, 4 of 12 teachers. That stops today. Jack's voice was quiet but absolute. This gymnasium, this school, this community, it becomes a place where kids can ask for help and adults answer, where we protect the vulnerable instead of protecting our comfort, where we choose courage over convenience. Principal Anderson stepped forward. Mr. Sullivan, would your organization be interested in partnering with our district? Training staff to recognize signs of abuse, providing resources for families in crisis, creating a formal support network. Jack looked at his brothers and sisters, saw nods of agreement. We've been waiting 20 years for someone to ask us that question. Maya stood in the center of the gymnasium, surrounded by 42 classmates and their families, backed by 50 bikers who'd become her army. 2 hours ago, she'd been a girl who thought she might die before her 9th birthday. Now she was something else, someone else. When Mrs. Patterson asked if anyone had questions for the Hells Angels, Maya's hand went up. Everyone looked at her. The girl with the black eye and split lip and ribs that made every breath hurt. Jack? Her voice was small, but everyone listened. You said family is about protecting people, about showing up. She looked around the room. Brandon was scared like me. His mom was hurt like me. How many more? How many more kids in this school are hiding? The question hung in the air, impossible to ignore. Principal Anderson pulled out her phone, began typing. I'm calling an emergency staff meeting for Monday morning. Every teacher, every counselor, every administrator. We're going to review every student file. Look for patterns, signs we missed. One of the other parents stood, David Chen, father of Sarah Chen, the surgeon's daughter. I'm an attorney. I'll volunteer time for families who need legal help escaping abusive situations. Another parent. I own an apartment complex. I can offer reduced rent for families transitioning out of dangerous homes. Dr. Morrison, the pediatrician. Free examinations for any child who needs documentation of injuries. The room transformed. What started as Career Day had become something larger, a community finding its conscience. Maya watched it happen, this ripple spreading outward from one small girl's courage into something that might actually change lives. Jack knelt beside her, his weathered face level with hers. You know what you just did, Maya? You showed these people that one person asking for help can move mountains. You started something today that's going to last a lot longer than a few hours. I just wanted someone to come to Career Day with me. Maya's voice cracked. I didn't mean to. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is the simplest thing. You asked. That's all. You asked when asking felt impossible. And look what happened. The presentations continued, but different now. More honest, more raw. Parents talked about their jobs, but also about their struggles. Teachers shared resources for families in need. Children asked questions that revealed the weight some of them carried. By noon, when Career Day officially ended, 23 families had approached the bikers or Principal Anderson for help. Some needed food assistance. Others needed counseling referrals. 3 more needed help escaping domestic violence. Jack gathered his family outside, 50 bikers in a circle. We started something today. Question is, do we see it through? Hell yes, Carlos said, and 49 voices echoed the sentiment. Then we formalize it. Create a program. Partner with the schools and law enforcement and social services. We call it... Jack looked at Maya, who stood with Emmy now, both of them looking like they'd survived a war. Iron Shield. We become a shield for kids who need one. They voted right there in the parking lot. Unanimous. Iron Shield would become real. Maya watched from beside her mother as 50 bikers mounted their motorcycles. The formation broke, engines starting one by one until the air vibrated with mechanical thunder. Jack was the last to start his bike. He looked at Maya, gave her a small salute. She saluted back. This 8-year-old girl with a black eye and cracked ribs and courage enough to change the world. The bikes rolled out, but they'd be back, every single one of them. Because family doesn't abandon its own, and Maya Torres had 50 new family members who just made her a promise with their presence, that she would never be alone again, never be unprotected, never be invisible. Emma drove Maya home in their old Honda, the apartment on Oak Street that still smelled like Vincent's beer and rage. But Vincent was gone, arrested, facing years in prison. The locks would be changed tomorrow. Mom had already called a locksmith. I'm sorry, baby. Emma's hands gripped the steering wheel tight. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. You were trying to survive, Mama. Same as me. Maya's voice was tired, pain medication making everything soft around the edges. We both survived. That's what matters. They sat in the driveway for a long moment, mother and daughter, 2 survivors, trying to figure out what came next. Those bikers, Emma said quietly. They saved you. They saved us. They saved themselves too, I think. Maya's eyes were half closed. Jack said helping me gives them purpose. Carlos said it reminds them why they survived. Maybe we all saved each other. Inside the apartment, Emma helped Maya into bed, surrounded her with pillows to support the cracked ribs. Through the window, Maya could see a motorcycle parked across the street. Marcus, taking first watch. The bikers had set up a rotation, 3 people per shift, 24/7, until Vincent's trial concluded and Emma felt safe. Maya fell asleep to the sound of her mother crying in the next room, tears of relief and guilt and hope all mixed together. She fell asleep knowing that when she woke up, someone would still be watching, protecting, standing guard. She fell asleep believing, for the first time in 2 years, that tomorrow might be better than today. And she fell asleep understanding that family wasn't about blood. It was about who showed up when the world went dark, who stayed when things got hard, who answered when someone was brave enough to ask for help. 50 people had answered. 50 strangers had become family in the space of 6 hours. 50 motorcycles had rolled into a school parking lot and declared that Maya Torres mattered, that her life had value, that she deserved protection and dignity and love. Career Day had taught everyone what Mrs. Patterson never expected, that sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unlikely teachers. That courage looks like a 60-pound girl asking bikers for help. That family wears leather and rides Harleys and shows up when nobody else will. Maya Torres went to sleep that night believing in heroes again. Not the kind in movies or comic books. The kind that showed up at dawn in a truck stop diner. The kind that called 50 brothers and sisters to protect one child. The kind that promised forever and meant it. The sun set over Riverside, California. 50 miles away, in prison, Vincent Kramer sat in a cell and learned what it felt like to be powerless. On Oak Street, Emma Torres called her mother Rosa, asked if she and Maya could stay there for a while. At the Hells Angels clubhouse on Industrial Boulevard, Jack Sullivan and his family planned the future of Iron Shield, a program that would grow beyond anything they imagined. And in a small bedroom that still smelled faintly of fear and violence, 8-year-old Maya Torres dreamed of motorcycles and thunder and family that chose her, that fought for her, that refused to let her fall through the cracks of a system too broken to save every child who needed saving. She dreamed of cherry blossoms strong enough to crack concrete, of girls who survived, of the moment everything changed because someone finally answered when she asked for help. 2 weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Maya lived with her grandmother, Rosa Torres, in a bungalow 3 miles from Oak Street, sleeping in a room that smelled like lavender and old books instead of beer and testosterone fury. The nightmares came every night without fail. Vincent's hands around her throat, the sensation of falling downstairs. The moment her vision went black and she thought, this is how I die. She woke gasping, ribs screaming, and found Rosa already there with warm milk and soft Spanish lullabies that made the dark less terrible. Emma filed for divorce on day 3, restraining order on day 4. By day 7, she'd moved into Rosa's house too, sleeping on the pull-out couch, working double shifts to save money for a place of their own. The apartment on Oak Street sat empty, windows dark, a crime scene slowly becoming just another address where something bad had happened once. Vincent sat in county jail on $500,000 bail that nobody would post. His public defender, a tired man named Gerald Copeland, had already hinted at a plea bargain, 8 years with possibility of parole in 6. The prosecutor wanted 12 minimum. Either way, Vincent wouldn't touch free air for a long time. Jack Sullivan kept his promise. 3 bikers rotated shifts outside Rosa's house around the clock. Marcus took mornings, Carlos covered afternoons. Various others handled nights, Roy when his arthritis allowed, Diego from Riverside, Rosa's girlfriend, Michelle, who rode a custom softail and kept a baseball bat strapped to her bike that she called Conversation Ender. The protection detail became neighborhood theater. Mrs. Alvarez from next door brought them coffee and pan dulce. Mr. Washington, the retired postal worker across the street, started bringing his morning paper outside just to chat with whoever was on duty. Kids rode their bikes past slowly, staring at the motorcycles with awe and hunger, wanting to be old enough to command machines that powerful. Maya went back to Lincoln Elementary on Monday of week 3. She'd missed 9 days. Her ribs still ached with every deep breath, but Dr. Chen had cleared her for normal activity with restrictions. No PE, no roughhousing, careful with backpacks. The black eye had faded to greenish yellow, makeup covering most of it. The split lip had healed into a thin pink line that would probably scar. Mrs. Patterson cried when Maya walked into homeroom. Actually cried, and right there in front of the 27 third graders who'd been present for career day and 14 who'd been absent. The teacher hugged Maya carefully, mindful of healing ribs, and whispered apologies that Maya didn't think were necessary, but accepted anyway because adults needed forgiveness sometimes more than kids did. Brandon Mitchell wasn't in class. His desk sat empty, name tag still attached to the cubby where he kept his pencils and crumpled homework. Maya asked Mrs. Patterson during morning recess where he'd gone. The teacher's face softened. Brandon and his mother moved into a safe house. They're attending a different school temporarily, somewhere his father can't find them. The Hells Angels arranged it. Maya nodded, feeling something like relief mixed with sadness. Brandon had escaped, but escape meant losing your home, your school, your friends. Escape meant starting over in a place where nobody knew you and everything was foreign, and you had to rebuild your life from scorched earth. She understood that better than most 8-year-olds should. At lunch, 3 girls from her class, Sophia, Emma, and Grace, asked if they could sit with her. Maya, who usually ate alone at the corner table by the emergency exit, said yes. They talked about normal things. Homework, the upcoming book fair, whether Mrs. Patterson's new haircut made her look like a poodle or a movie star. Nobody mentioned Vincent or bruises or 50 motorcycles. It felt like being human again, instead of being a tragedy. After school, Carlos waited in the pickup line, leaning against his Harley Fat Boy like he belonged there among the minivans and Subarus. Other parents stared, some whispered. One mother, Karen Whitmore, whose daughter Ainsley was in Maya's class, made a point of grabbing her child's hand and walking a wide circle around Carlos like violence might be contagious. Carlos saw it, smiled his ghost smile that didn't reach his eyes, and helped Maya with her backpack. "How was school, little warrior?" "Okay." Sophia shared her fruit snacks with me. "We have a math test Friday that I'm going to fail." "You're not going to fail. I'll help you study." Carlos settled Maya's backpack into the saddlebag, handed her the helmet Rosa had bought, pink with black flames, child size. "Jack wants to see you at the clubhouse. You up for that?" Maya's stomach fluttered with something between nervousness and excitement. "What for?" "You'll see." The Hells Angels clubhouse occupied a converted warehouse on Industrial Boulevard, sandwiched between an auto body shop and a wholesale tile distributor. The building was unmarked, except for the club patch painted 15 feet high on the east wall. A death's head with wings, wearing a motorcycle helmet, red and white colors that meant California chapter. Inside, the main room held a bar, pool tables, motorcycle repair bays, and enough leather furniture to outfit a small army. 43 people filled the space when Maya and Carlos arrived, not just bikers. Principal Rebecca Anderson sat on one of the couches, looking slightly uncomfortable but determined. Dr. Helen Morse, a psychologist Maya recognized from a poster in the school counselor's office, perched on a bar stool taking notes. Detective Lisa Huang stood near the bar in plain clothes, off-duty but present. Sarah Mitchell and Brandon sat together in the corner, the boy's head resting on his mother's shoulder. Jack stood at the center, commanding attention without trying. When Maya entered, he smiled, a real smile that carved years off his weathered face. "There she is, our founding member." He gestured for Maya to join him. "Come on up here, kiddo." Maya walked through a room full of adults, feeling impossibly small and simultaneously larger than her 62 pounds. Jack's hand settled on her shoulder, warm and steady. 2 weeks ago, this girl walked into a diner and asked for help. Today, we're here to make that help permanent. Jack looked around the room. Iron Shield isn't just an idea anymore. It's real. We're making it real. He pulled out a document, something official looking, with letterhead and signatures. As of this morning, Iron Shield is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization in the state of California. We've got a board of directors, operational guidelines, and partnership agreements with 3 school districts. Principal Anderson stood. Riverside Unified has approved Iron Shield as an official community partner. We're implementing training for all staff on recognizing signs of abuse. We're creating safe spaces in every school where children can speak with trained advocates. And we're establishing a 24/7 hotline for families in crisis. Dr. Morse spoke next, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd spent 30 years studying trauma. "I'm donating 20 hours per week to provide counseling services. We're also recruiting other licensed therapists who specialize in childhood trauma and domestic violence." Detective Huang added her piece. "Riverside PD is assigning a dedicated liaison to work with Iron Shield. Faster response times, better coordination, direct line to detectives who handle child abuse cases. Maya listened as adults built scaffolding around the things she'd started without meaning to. Programs and policies and partnerships that turned desperate courage into institutional change. It felt too big, too important to have begun with one scared girl asking bikers for help. Jack squeezed her shoulder. Maya, we're naming you youth advocate. Junior position obviously since you're 8, but your voice matters. When we make decisions about how to help kids, you get it to weigh in. Deal? She nodded, throat too tight for words. Carlos stepped forward, holding something wrapped in leather. We also made you something. He unwrapped it carefully. A vest, child-sized. Black leather with the iron shield patch on the back. A shield split down the middle, one half burning phoenix, the other half a child's handprint. Underneath the words, protected, never alone. It's not a full club vest, Jack explained. You're too young for that. But it's our way of saying you're family. Official. Maya took the vest with trembling hands. The leather was butter soft, broken in, probably from someone else's old gear, cut down to her size. She slipped it on over her school uniform. Perfect fit. Applause filled the clubhouse. Not polite golf clap applause. Real applause. The kind that acknowledged something meaningful. Brandon appeared at Maya's elbow, eyes wide. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. You'll get one too, Rosa said, materializing from somewhere with 2 more child-sized vests. You and 12 other kids who've come to us for help. She handed one to Brandon, kept the other. We're building an army of survivors. Kids helping kids. That okay with you? Brandon pulled his vest on like armor. More than okay. The meeting continued. Logistics and fundraising and volunteer coordination. Maya half listened, exhausted from school and overwhelmed by attention. She drifted to the motorcycle repair bay where Roy sat working on a carburetor, his gnarled hands still steady despite 78 years of hard living. Too much talking? Roy's voice was gravel and whiskey, worn smooth by time. Little bit. Pull up a stool. Help me with this. Maya climbed onto a workbench stool, watched Roy's hands disassemble the carburetor with practiced efficiency. He explained each piece, float, jets, needle valve, and let her hold the wrench when it was time to reassemble. You know why I like motorcycles? Roy didn't wait for an answer. Because they're honest. Bike won't lie to you, won't pretend to be something it's not. Metal and gasoline and physics. You take care of it, it takes care of you. I wish people were like that. Some are, the ones worth keeping. Roy tightened a bolt, tested the float. Jack, Carlos, Marcus, they're honest. They'll tell you hard truths. They'll show up when you need them. That's rare, little lady. That's gold. Maya handed him a screwdriver, watched him adjust something internal and mysterious. My dad used to fix things before he died. Daniel Torres, good man, from what I hear. You knew him? No, but I know his daughter, and daughters are proof of who their fathers were. Roy's eyes, faded blue, found Maya's. He'd be proud of you, kid. Walking into that diner took guts most grown men don't have. The tears came without warning, sudden and hot. Maya tried to stop them, but Roy just handed her a shop rag and kept working, giving her privacy in plain sight. It's okay to cry. Crying means you're still feeling things, still human. That's important. They worked in comfortable silence until the carburetor was reassembled and Roy pronounced it ready for installation. Then he showed Maya how to check tire pressure, how to clean a chain, how to change oil. Mechanical meditation that made the world small and manageable. When Emma came to collect her 2 hours later, Maya's hands were black with grease and her face hurt from smiling. Week 4 brought the first real obstacle. Richard Pemberton from Child Protective Services arrived at Rosa's house on a Wednesday afternoon with a clipboard and suspicion carved into his bureaucratic features. He was 48, balding, wearing a polo shirt tucked into khakis like armor against the chaos of broken families. Emma let him in with visible reluctance. Maya sat on the couch doing homework, trying to be invisible the way she'd learned during the Vincent years. Pemberton didn't waste time on pleasantries. Mrs. Torres, I'm here because my office has received multiple reports about Maya's current living situation. Reports. Emma's voice went sharp with protective anger. What kind of reports? Concerns about the appropriateness of a motorcycle club running what amounts to an unlicensed child protection program. Pemberton consulted his clipboard. The Hells Angels have multiple members with criminal records. DUIs, assault charges, weapons violations, ancient history. Jack spoke from the doorway. Nobody had heard him arrive, but there he was, filling the frame with 63 inches of contained fury. Most of those charges are 15, 20 years old. Minor offenses, bar fights. We've all paid our debt. Pemberton turned, unimpressed. Mr. Sullivan, I was hoping to speak with Mrs. Torres privately. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Jack. Emma crossed her arms. He saved my daughter's life. Probably mine too. That may be, but my job is to ensure Maya's safety and well-being. I need to interview her. Alone. Maya looked up from her math homework, stomach clenching. Alone meant questions designed to trap her, to find inconsistency, to build a case for removing her from another home. Jack read her expression, stepped fully into the room. Interview her with her mother present. That's non-negotiable. Pemberton's jaw tightened. Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate what you've done, but you have no legal standing here. You're not family. You're not a licensed social worker. I'm the man who answered when Maya asked for help. Jack's voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. I'm the man who's been keeping this family safe while the system that's supposed to protect them tried to figure out which form to file. So yeah, maybe I don't have legal standing, but I've got moral standing. And I'm not going anywhere. Pemberton and Jack stared at each other across Rose's living room while Maya held her breath and Emma looked ready to throw the social worker out physically. Finally, Pemberton sighed. Fine. Mrs. Torres may stay, but I need honest answers, Maya. No one here will be mad at you for telling the truth. The interview lasted 40 minutes. Pemberton asked about Vincent, how often he hurt her, what kinds of injuries, whether Emma knew. He asked about the bikers. Did any of them make her uncomfortable, touch her inappropriately, say things that scared her? He asked about school, nightmares, whether she felt safe at Rose's house. Maya answered everything truthfully. Yes, Vincent hurt her multiple times per week for 6 months. No, she never told her mother because Vincent said he'd kill them both. No, none of the bikers had ever hurt her or touched her wrong or made her feel unsafe. Yes, she still had nightmares. Yes, she felt safer now than she had in 2 years. Pemberton wrote everything down in handwriting so small Maya couldn't read it upside down. When he finished, he closed his folder and looked at Emma. I'll be recommending continued oversight, monthly home visits, verification that Maya is attending counseling, background checks on anyone involved with Iron Shield who has contact with children. That's fine, Emma said through gritted teeth. Anything else? Yes, this motorcycle club running an unlicensed child welfare program. It can't continue without proper regulation. I'm bringing this to the county board next week. They'll likely shut it down. Jack's expression didn't change, but Maya saw his hands curl into fists. You'd rather kids suffer in silence than accept help from people you consider inappropriate? I'd rather kids get help from licensed, trained professionals through established systems. Those established systems failed Maya, failed Brandon Mitchell, failed 23 other kids who've come to us in 4 weeks. Jack's voice was steel wrapped in ice. But sure, shut us down. Send those kids back into the dark because we don't have the right paperwork. Pemberton stood, tucking his folder under his arm. I don't make the rules, Mr. Sullivan. I enforce them. Good day, Mrs. Torres. Maya. He left. The front door clicked shut with bureaucratic finality. Maya waited 30 seconds, then burst into tears. Not sad tears, angry tears, frustrated tears. The kind that came from watching adults with power make decisions that hurt people without power. Jack crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt beside the couch. Hey, look at me. Maya looked, vision blurred. This isn't over. Pemberton's just one man. We've got lawyers, we've got Principal Anderson, we've got 3 county supervisors who've already expressed support. We're going to fight this. What if you lose? Jack's scarred face softened. Then we fight differently. Underground if we have to. But Maya, listen. You started something that can't be stopped. Even if they shut down Iron Shield officially, you think we're abandoning these kids? You think Marcus is going to stop taking calls at 3 a.m. from terrified mothers? You think Rosa's going to turn away a child who needs help? No, damn right no. We'll just be more creative. He squeezed her shoulder. Have a little faith, warrior. The county board meeting happened the following Tuesday at 7 p.m. in a government building that smelled like floor polish and broken dreams. The hearing room held 200 people. 250 showed up. Maya sat in the front row between Emma and Jack, wearing her Iron Shield vest over a dress Rosa had bought for the occasion. Principal Anderson sat 2 rows back with 6 teachers from Lincoln Elementary. Dr. Morse was there. Detective Huang, Sarah Mitchell, and Brandon. 27 families whose children had received help from Iron Shield in the past month, and 40 bikers in full colors, a wall of leather and defiance at the back of the room. The county board consisted of 5 supervisors, 3 men, 2 women, ranging in age from early 40s to late 60s. They sat behind an elevated desk like judges, looking down at the assembled crowd with expressions that ranged from curiosity to concern to barely concealed contempt. Supervisor Patricia Brennan called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss the unlicensed operation of a child welfare program by the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, operating under the name Iron Shield. Mr. Pemberton, please present your findings. Pemberton stood, referenced his clipboard, and spent 15 minutes detailing every reason Iron Shield should be shut down immediately. Unlicensed counseling, unvetted volunteers with criminal records, lack of proper oversight, potential for abuse, liability concerns, insurance issues. He made it sound like Jack and his family were running a trafficking ring instead of protecting children. When he finished, Supervisor Brennan looked to Jack. Mr. Sullivan, you have 15 minutes to respond. Jack stood slowly, every eye in the room tracking his movement. He didn't bring notes, didn't need them. 4 weeks ago, an 8-year-old girl walked into a diner where my family was having breakfast. She had a black eye, cracked ribs, and bruises on her throat where her stepfather tried to strangle her. She asked us for help. Jack's voice carried to every corner of the room. We called the police. We got her medical treatment. We documented everything. We did exactly what the system says you're supposed to do when you suspect abuse. He paused, letting that sink in. But Maya didn't just need emergency intervention. She needed ongoing protection, support, a family who'd show up. So we did. We've been showing up every day since. And you know what happened? Other kids saw someone finally helping. They started asking too. Jack gestured to the crowd. 27 families in 4 weeks. Kids who were being hurt, starved, neglected. Mothers trying to escape violent partners. People who fell through the cracks of Mr. Pemberton's properly licensed, adequately regulated system. Pemberton's face flushed red, but he stayed silent. You want to shut us down because we don't have the right paperwork? Fine. Give us the paperwork. Tell us what licenses we need, what training, what background checks. We'll do it. Every single requirement. Jack's winter sky eyes swept across the board. But don't shut us down and pretend you're protecting children. You'd just be protecting a system that's already failing them. Supervisor Marcus Chen leaned forward. Mr. Sullivan, surely you understand our concern. Your organization has members with criminal records. How can we trust? My record is public. Jack cut him off, not rudely, but firmly. Bar fight when I was 23, DUI when I was 28. Both over 25 years ago. I did my time, paid my fines, grew up. Most of my brothers and sisters have similar stories. We're not saints, but we're not predators either. Principal Anderson stood without being called on. If I may. Supervisor Brennan nodded. I've been an educator for 26 years. I've seen a lot of programs come and go, some well-intentioned but ineffective. Some properly funded but bureaucratic to the point of uselessness. Anderson's voice carried the weight of hard-earned authority. Iron Shield has done more good in 4 weeks than the district's official child welfare programs have done in 4 years. They're responsive, dedicated, and they actually care about outcomes instead of paperwork. Dr. Morse stood pen. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with 30 years experience treating childhood trauma. I've evaluated the children in Iron Shield's care. They're receiving excellent support, better than what most state programs provide. Shutting this down would actively harm vulnerable children. Detective Huang added her voice. From a law enforcement perspective, Iron Shield has made our jobs easier. They don't interfere with investigations. They document everything properly. They've helped us build stronger cases against abusers. This is exactly the kind of community partnership we need more of, not less. One by one, people stood to speak. Parents whose children had been helped. Teachers who'd seen transformation. A family court judge who praised Iron Shield's thoroughness. Even Karen Whitmore, the mother who'd pulled her daughter away from Carlos in the school parking lot, stood and admitted she'd been wrong, that her nephew had been helped by the program when CPS had a 6-week wait list. Finally, Maya stood. Emma tried to stop her, but Jack nodded permission. The room went quiet. Maya's voice was small but clear, amplified by microphones designed for adults. My name is Maya Torres. Mr. Pemberton thinks the Hells Angels are dangerous. My stepdad was dangerous. He burned me with cigarettes. He threw me downstairs. He choked me until I saw black spots. She pulled down the collar of her dress, showing the faded handprint bruises on her throat. The bikers, they saved my life. They show up every single day to make sure I'm safe. They helped me with homework. They taught me how to fix motorcycles. They gave me a family when I thought I'd lost everything. Maya looked directly at Pemberton. You want to protect kids? Then help them help us. Don't shut down the only people who answered when I was brave enough to ask. She sat down. The room erupted in applause that lasted 2 full minutes. Several board members looked uncomfortable. Supervisor Brennan banged her gavel for order. The board deliberated for 40 minutes in closed session. Maya sat with Emma, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her healing ribs. Jack stood against the back wall, surrounded by his family, all of them silent and tense. When the board returned, Supervisor Chen spoke. We've reached a decision. By a vote of 4-1, Iron Shield will be allowed to continue operations under the following conditions. All volunteers must pass comprehensive background checks. A licensed counselor must be on staff. Monthly reports submitted to the county. Quarterly audits of operations and finances. Informal partnership agreements with law enforcement and child protective services. He looked at Jack. You have 90 days to meet these requirements. Fail, and we shut you down permanently. Succeed, and you'll have the county's full support. Do you accept these terms? Jack didn't hesitate. We accept. The room exploded again, this time with cheers. Maya hugged Emma, then Jack, then found herself surrounded by bikers who'd become uncles and aunts and grandparents in the space of a month. Pemberton approached as the crowd dispersed, his expression unreadable. Mr. Sullivan, Mrs. Torres, Maya. They faced him warily. I was wrong. The words came out stiff, unpracticed. Not about the need for oversight, but about questioning your motivations. I've seen a lot of people claim to help children while actually exploiting them. I didn't give you the benefit of the doubt. That was unfair. Jack extended his hand. Pemberton took it. Work with us instead of against us, Jack said. Help us meet those requirements. Make sure we're doing this right. That's all we want. Pemberton nodded slowly. I can do that. Outside the government building, under street lights that painted everything orange and surreal, 50 motorcycles lined up for a victory ride. Maya sat behind Jack, helmet secure, arms around his waist. Emma rode with Carlos, Brandon with Marcus. Families doubled up on bikes built for solitary riders, making room for the people who mattered. They rode through Riverside as the sun set, engines roaring triumph into the cooling air. People stopped on sidewalks to watch. Some waved. Others filmed with their phones, posting videos that would go viral by morning. Bikers and children, outcasts and survivors, building something beautiful from shared brokenness. Maya pressed her face against Jack's leather jacket, felt the rumble of the engine through her entire body, and thought about how much her life had changed in 30 days. A month ago, she was a girl who thought she'd die before learning long division. Now she was someone who'd changed county policy, who'd helped create a program that would outlive all of them, who'd proven that asking for help wasn't weakness, but the bravest possible strength. The ride ended at the clubhouse where Rosa had prepared enough food to feed an army. Carne asada and rice and beans and tortillas made from scratch, potato salad and coleslaw and cornbread, a cake decorated with the Iron Shield logo and the words, "Protected, never alone." They ate and laughed and told stories. Roy taught Maya a card trick. Carlos showed Brandon how to throw darts. Dr. Morse discussed trauma therapy with three mothers whose children were still learning to sleep without nightmares. At 9 p.m., Emma found Maya asleep on a couch, curled against Jack's side, while he argued motorcycle modifications with Diego. The sight made Emma's chest ache with something between grief and gratitude. Her daughter had found safety in the arms of a man who wore death's heads and rode machines built for rebellion. But safety was safety, family was family, and these broken, scarred, beautiful people had shown up when nobody else would. Emma sat on Jack's other side. "Thank you doesn't feel like enough. Thank you isn't necessary." Jack adjusted his arms so Maya could sleep more comfortably. "She's family. This is what we do for family. Still, thank you." They sat in comfortable silence while the party continued around them. Bikers and civilians, children and adults, survivors building community from the wreckage of their separate traumas. Maya dreamed of motorcycles and thunder, in a future where no child had to walk into a diner asking strangers for help, because the help would already be there, built into systems that actually worked, staffed by people who understood that paperwork mattered less than presence, that regulations meant nothing without compassion. She dreamed of Iron Shield growing, spreading, becoming the thing every frightened child could reach for without fear of being turned away. And she dreamed in colors she couldn't name, the particular shade of courage when fear seems overwhelming, the hue of hope when everything feels dark, the tone of transformation when broken things begin to heal. When she woke 2 hours later, the party had wound down to a dozen people sitting around telling quiet stories. Jack was still there, solid and steady. Emma dozed in a nearby chair. Brandon and his mother had gone home to their safe house. The world continued spinning, indifferent to small miracles, but Maya had learned that miracles didn't need the world's attention. They just needed people willing to show up. Rosa appeared with a blanket, draped it over Maya's sleeping form. "Time to go home, mija." Home. The word had changed meaning. Home wasn't a place anymore. It was Rosa's lavender-scented bungalow, and Emma's fierce protection, and Jack's unwavering presence, and 50 bikers who'd adopted a scared girl and declared her worth protecting. Home was wherever family showed up, and family, Maya had learned, didn't require blood, just courage and presence, and the revolutionary act of answering when someone asked for help. 5 years collapsed into memory like accordion folds, each year distinct but compressed by distance. Maya turned 13 in October, the same month she'd walked into Crossroads Diner asking for a father. The anniversary had become something Iron Shield celebrated annually, Founders Day, though Maya hated being called a founder when all she'd done was survive loudly enough for people to notice. The program had metastasized beyond anyone's projections. What started as 15 bikers helping one girl now spanned 12 states, 47 chapters, 3,147 children served. The statistics lived on a website that crashed twice from traffic spikes after a viral video showed Iron Shield members escorting a terrified mother and her 4 kids away from an abusive husband while police held him back. 7 million views in 3 days. Donations flooded in. Corporate sponsors appeared. Politicians wanted photo opportunities. Jack hated the attention, but tolerated it because money meant resources, and resources meant helping more kids. He was 57 now, silver in his beard going white, the scar on his face deepened by sun and time. Still rode every day, still showed up. Maya stood in the green room of the National Conference on Child Welfare, smoothing her dress for the 14th time. Outside, 2,000 people filled an auditorium in Washington, D.C., waiting to hear a 13-year-old keynote. The irony wasn't lost on her. 5 years ago, she couldn't speak loud enough to be heard in class, too afraid of drawing Vincent's attention. Now she was addressing child welfare professionals from 7 countries. Emma appeared in the doorway, no longer the exhausted woman drowning in 2 jobs and an abusive marriage. She graduated nursing school 2 years ago, worked pediatric trauma at County General, made enough money to buy a small house 3 blocks from Rose's bungalow. Her hair had grown long again, streaked with premature gray that she refused to dye. Battle scars, she called them, proof of survival. You ready, baby? Maya's stomach twisted itself into sailor's knots. No, yes, I don't know. You've given this speech 50 times, not to 2,000 people, not with cameras. Maya gestured toward the stage beyond the curtain where news crews set up equipment. What if I mess up? What if I say something stupid and it ruins everything we've built? Emma crossed the room, took Maya's face in both hands. Listen to me. You walked into a diner full of strangers when you were 8 years old and barely weighed 60 pounds. You testified against Vincent in court when you were 9. You convinced a county board to legitimize Iron Shield when everyone said it was impossible. Her thumb brushed Maya's cheek. This is just talking. You've already done the hard parts. Carlos stuck his head through the doorway. 5 minutes, warrior. You good? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. He flashed the ghost smile that meant he was proud even if words felt inadequate. You got this. And hey, Jack's in the front row. You get nervous, just look at him. The green room emptied. Maya stood alone with her notes, handwritten on index cards, her father Daniel's technique for managing stage fright that Emma had taught her. 1 card per main point. No reading verbatim. Just touchstones to keep her on track. Card 1, statistics. Card 2, Brandon's story. Card 3, what family means. Card 4, the work ahead. Simple, manageable. She could do this. The introduction began. Dr. Patricia Hammond, conference director, listing Maya's accomplishments like they belonged to someone else. Youngest board member of a national nonprofit. Featured in Time magazine's most influential teens. Congressional testimony on child welfare reform. It sounded impressive and hollow simultaneously. Achievements that mattered to adults, but felt disconnected from the actual work of showing up for scared kids. Please welcome Maya Torres. Applause swelled, 2,000 hands creating thunder. Maya walked onto the stage, heels clicking against hardwood. Rosa had taught her to walk in them last month. An entire afternoon of stumbling practice. The lights made the audience mostly invisible, just shapes and shadows beyond the brightness. But front row center she found Jack, flanked by Carlos and Marcus and Roy in a wheelchair now, oxygen tube snaking to a portable tank, but present, always present. Maya reached the podium, adjusted the microphone down to her height, looked at her note cards, put them face down without reading them. 5 years ago, I weighed 62 pounds and couldn't see out of my left eye. My stepdad had put me in the hospital with 3 cracked ribs, a split lip, and bruises on my throat where he tried to strangle me. Her voice carried, clear and steady, surprising herself. I was 8 years old and I thought I was going to die before my 9th birthday. The audience was completely silent. I'm 13 now. I weigh 98 pounds. I'm 5'2". I have a 3.8 GPA and I run track. I want to study mechanical engineering at Stanford. Maya paused. None of that should be remarkable, but it is because statistically, I should be dead. She clicked the presentation remote. The screen behind her showed numbers. Every year in the United States, approximately 4 million children are reported to Child Protective Services for suspected abuse or neglect. Of those, 680,000 are confirmed victims. 1,825 die from abuse-related injuries. Maya let that number sit. That's 5 children every single day. Click. New slide. Iron Shield has served 3,147 children across 12 states in 5 years. We've partnered with 214 schools, 147 law enforcement agencies, and 89 social service organizations. We've helped 892 families escape domestic violence situations. Click. The number that mattered most. 0 children in Iron Shield care have died from abuse. She looked up from the screen. 0. That number is what I'm most proud of, because every single one of those 3,147 kids is someone who asked for help and we answered. Someone who was brave enough to speak and we were present enough to listen. Maya told Brandon's story without using his real name. 8-year-old boy watching his father hurt his mother, terrified to speak until he saw Maya standing with 50 bikers at career day. The courage that spread like wildfire when one person chose truth over silence. How he and his mother were safe now, living in Oregon under new names, starting over. She talked about the Hells Angels and how the world saw them versus who they actually were. Criminals with records versus survivors with purpose. How Jack and Carlos and Marcus and Roy weren't saints or heroes, just broken people who decided their damage could be useful. How the most unlikely people often made the most dedicated protectors because they understood firsthand what happened when nobody showed up. Family isn't about biology, Maya said, and her voice caught briefly before steadying. My biological father died when I was 6. The man my mother married tried to kill me. But I have 50 fathers now, 50 mothers, 50 siblings. They're not related to me by blood. They're related to me by choice, by showing up, by staying. She clicked to a photo, career day 5 years ago, 50 motorcycles in the Lincoln Elementary parking lot. Maya at 8 years old, dwarfed by Jack's frame, wearing a pink hoodie torn at the shoulder. This is the day everything changed, not just for me, for everyone who saw it and realized that asking for help wasn't weakness. That family could be built instead of born into. That sometimes the most important thing you can do is answer when someone asks you to show up. The statistics came next: success rates, recidivism reduction, improved mental health outcomes, cost savings compared to traditional foster care systems. Maya presented the data that foundations and government agencies needed to hear, the numbers that justified continued funding and expansion. But then she set the remote down. Numbers matter. They prove efficacy. They convince stakeholders, but they don't tell the whole story. Maya gripped the podium edge. The story is a 7-year-old girl named Hannah who learned to read because a biker named Rosa spent 3 hours every Saturday helping her with phonics. The story is a 12-year-old boy named Marcus, different Marcus, who stopped cutting himself because someone finally noticed the scars and asked if he was okay. The story is a mother named Jennifer who escaped with her 3 kids and now runs her own chapter of Iron Shield in Phoenix. Her voice strengthened. The story is every single person who thought they were alone and discovered they weren't. Every child who learned that violence isn't love and they deserve better. Every family that found safety when the system meant to protect them was buried under bureaucracy and underfunding. Maya looked directly at the audience, seeing them now as her eyes adjusted to the lights. Social workers and therapists and policymakers and nonprofit directors. People who did this work every day, grinding themselves down trying to help more people with fewer resources. You're tired, I know you are. This work is exhausting and traumatic and often thankless. You see the worst of humanity. You carry stories that wake you up at night. You fight for scraps of funding while the need grows exponentially. She paused. But you show up anyway, just like the bikers showed up for me. And that showing up, that's everything. The presentation ended with a call to action. Partner with unconventional allies. Train community members to recognize abuse, create accessible reporting systems, fund trauma-informed care, believe children when they speak. Show up. Keep showing up. The applause started before she finished the last sentence. 2,000 people rose to their feet, and the sound washed over Maya like a physical force. She stood at the podium, 13 years old, overwhelmed and grateful and exhausted, watching adults who dedicated their lives to protecting children acknowledge that a scared 8-year-old had taught them something they'd forgotten. That courage spreads, that help comes from unexpected places. That one person asking and one person answering could change everything. She looked for Jack in the front row. Found him standing with the rest, hands clapping, face wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. Carlos and Marcus flanked him, both crying too. Roy sat in his wheelchair, oxygen tube in place, applauding with hands that shook but stayed strong enough for this. Maya descended the stage into chaos. People wanting to shake her hand, ask questions, take photos, conference organizers trying to manage the crowd. Dr. Hammond steering her toward a media room where journalists waited. But Jack cut through the masses like a ship through water, Carlos and Marcus clearing a path. He reached Maya, pulled her into a hug that was careful of her ribs even though they'd healed 4 years ago. Proud of you, kid. Your dad would be too. Maya buried her face in his leather jacket that still smelled like motor oil and road dust and safety. Both my dads are. That night, the Hells Angels threw a party at their DC clubhouse, a temporary space borrowed from the East Coast chapter. 50 people crammed into a room meant for 30. Music and laughter and the particular energy of people who'd survived terrible things and chose joy anyway. Maya found a quiet corner with Brandon Mitchell, who'd flown in from Oregon with his mother, Sarah. He was 13 too now, taller than Maya, voice dropping into adolescence. They'd kept in touch through encrypted messages, maintaining connection despite the need for his family to disappear. That speech was incredible, Brandon said, sipping root beer from a bottle. You made 2,000 adults cry. I made myself cry writing it. Maya traced condensation on her own bottle. Sometimes I forget how bad it was. Then I have to talk about it publicly and it all comes back. You still have nightmares? Sometimes. Less than I used to. Dr. Morse says that's normal. Trauma doesn't just disappear because time passes. She looked at him. You? Yeah. Dreams where I can't protect my mom, where we're back in the old house and my dad finds us. Brandon's jaw tightened. But then I wake up and we're in Portland and he's in prison for another 6 years and we're safe. They sat in silence, comfortable with the weight of shared experience. Around them, the party continued. Emma danced with Carlos, both of them laughing at some private joke. Rosa held court with 3 social workers fascinated by the grandmother who'd become a biker at 63. Marcus and Detective Huang, who'd flown in as Iron Shield's law enforcement liaison, discussed policy changes over bourbon. Jack materialized from somewhere, settled into a chair across from Maya and Brandon. You two look too serious for a party. Just talking, Maya shrugged, decompressing. Understandable, that was a hell of a speech, Maya. You did good up there. Thanks to you, all of you, she gestured around the room. I'm just the face, you're the actual work. Jack shook his head. You're the heart, we're just the muscle, both necessary. Brandon leaned forward. Mr. Sullivan, can I ask you something? Shoot. Why, By? Not just Maya, all of it. You could have helped her and stopped there, but you built this whole thing. Why? Jack was quiet for a long moment, considering. When he spoke, his voice carried the texture of hard-won truth. My baby sister was 7 when our father started beating her. I was 15, big enough to fight back, but I didn't. I was scared. Coward. Old pain flickered across his face. She killed herself when she was 16, hanged herself in her bedroom closet while I was at football practice. Maya hadn't known this. None of them had. I spent 20 years trying to drink away the guilt. Joined the Marines, went to war, came home more broken, got into fights, went to jail twice, kept waiting to die because dying felt easier than living with what I didn't do. Jack's hands curled into fists on his knees. Then Maya walked into that diner, and I saw my sister. Saw a chance to not be too late this time. He looked at both of them. You asked why? Because I failed once and it destroyed me. Because I can't bring my sister back, but I can damn well make sure other kids don't die waiting for someone to care. Because every child we help is proof that my sister mattered, that her death meant something, that I can still do right even after doing wrong. Brandon's eyes were wet. Maya couldn't speak around the lump in her throat. Jack stood, joints creaking with age and old injuries. You two are the reason we keep going. Every kid who survives, who heals, who gets to grow up and be happy, that's the point. That's everything. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Maya and Brandon sat with his words, understanding something fundamental about the men and women who'd built Iron Shield. They weren't do-gooders or saints. They were people carrying guilt and grief who'd found a way to transform pain into purpose, broken things making themselves useful. The party wound down around midnight. Maya stood on the clubhouse roof with Carlos, looking at DC's skyline glittering against dark ski mountain. They'd snuck up here the way they used to when she was 9 and couldn't sleep, when nightmares made his staying inside unbearable. You ever think about what would have happened if we'd said no? Carlos lit a cigarette, offered it to Maya out of habit before remembering she was 13. If Jack had told you we couldn't help that morning, I'd probably be dead. Carlos winced. Yeah, probably. Vincent would have killed me eventually. Accidentally or on purpose, doesn't matter. I wouldn't have made it to 9. Maya shivered despite the warm night. But you didn't say no, you said yes, and you kept saying yes. Best decision we ever made. Carlos took a long drag, exhaled smoke that dispersed into nothing. You know how many times I wanted to quit? How many times the system fought us and I thought it's not worth it? A lot? Every goddamn day for the first year. Then every week. Now maybe once a month. He smiled, the expression visible in the glow from the city below. But then I see kids like you and Brandon. I see the numbers. 3,000 kids, 0 deaths. I remember why we started this. Because I asked. Because you asked, and we remembered being you, being scared and alone and desperate. Carlos flicked ash over the edge. You gave us purpose, Maya. You gave broken people a reason to stay unbroken long enough to help others. They stayed on the roof until Emma called Maya inside, voice carrying the particular tone of a mother who'd found her teenage daughter somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. Carlos took the blame, claimed he'd brought Maya up without permission. Emma saw through it but was too tired to argue. The flight back to California the next day felt surreal. First-class tickets, courtesy of conference sponsors, a luxury Maya couldn't reconcile with the girl who'd once counted change from a tip jar to afford a diner meal. Jack slept in the seat beside her, head back, snoring softly. He looked old in the harsh cabin light, weathered by decades of hard living, but peaceful too, content in a way that transcended circumstance. Maya pulled out her phone, scrolled through messages. Congratulations from Principal Anderson, now District Superintendent. A voice note from Roy saying he was proud and the speech made him ugly cry. Photos from Brandon's mom showing their new life in Portland, a small house with a garden, safety made tangible, and one message from an unknown number, local area code. You don't know me, but I saw your speech online. My boyfriend hurts me. I'm scared to leave. Can Iron Shield help? Maya stared at the message, heart racing. This was it, the reason for everything. A stranger reaching out because she'd seen someone else survive and thought maybe, possibly, she could survive too. She forwarded the message to the Iron Shield hotline. Watch the automated response confirm receipt. Within 5 minutes, a crisis counselor would call. Within an hour, they'd have a safety plan. Within 24 hours, if needed, the woman would be in a safe house with resources and support and people who understood. The system worked because people showed up. Because Maya had asked and Jack had answered, in that single interaction 5 years ago, had built infrastructure that caught people before they fell through cracks. Her phone buzzed again. The woman, thank you, I didn't think anyone would care. Maya typed back, we care, you matter, help is coming. She put the phone away, looked out the window at clouds that turned the world into cotton and light. Somewhere below, Vincent Kramer sat in a California prison 4 years into an 8-year sentence. He'd be eligible for parole in 2 years. The thought still made Maya's chest tight with old fear. But she wasn't that 60-pound girl anymore. She was 98 pounds of scar tissue and determination and proof that surviving wasn't the same as giving up. Vincent had tried to break her. Instead, he'd made her into someone who couldn't be broken, someone who'd learned that asking for help was the bravest thing possible. The plane descended into Riverside just before sunset. Sky painted the color of Maya's old pink hoodie, the one she'd worn to Crossroads Diner 5 years ago, blood-stained and torn, retired now to a box in Rosa's closet like a holy relic. She'd outgrown it years ago but couldn't throw it away. Evidence of who she'd been and how far she'd come. Emma waited at baggage claim with Rosa, both of them waving like Maya had been gone months instead of 3 days. The hug she got was fierce, protective. Emma's particular scent of hospital antiseptic and jasmine perfume, meaning home more than any building ever could. How'd it go? Rosa asked, even though they'd texted throughout the trip. Good, great, overwhelming. Maya shouldered her backpack. 2,000 people, Abuela. All of them listening to me talk about the worst thing that ever happened, and turning it into the best thing. Rosa tucked gray hair behind her ear. That's transformation, mija. That's alchemy. They drove through Riverside as darkness fell, familiar streets made foreign by time and distance. 5 years had changed the city in subtle ways. New buildings, closed businesses, different rhythms. But Lincoln Elementary still stood on the same corner, lights on for some evening event. The apartment on Oak Street where Vincent had hurt her had been demolished, replaced by a small park with playground equipment and a memorial bench Rosa had commissioned for all the children who survived. Maya asked Emma to drive past it. They sat in the car, engine idling, looking at the park that had grown from nightmare soil. You okay? Emma's hand found Maya's. Yeah, just remembering. The swings moved in invisible wind, ghostly in the dark. I used to think about burning that place down, erasing it. Why didn't you? Because pretending it didn't happen doesn't make it not happen. Maya squeezed her mother's hand. The park is better, takes the thing that hurt me and makes it useful for other kids. Transforms it. Like you. Like all of us. They drove to Rosa's house where dinner waited, enchiladas and rice, and the tres leches cake Maya loved. Jack arrived halfway through the meal with Carlos and Marcus, drawn by food and family and the gravitational pull of people who'd chosen each other. Roy couldn't make it. His health had deteriorated, oxygen dependence increasing, but he video called from his daughter's house to hear about DC. The conversation flowed like water, easy and necessary. Jack told stories about the East Coast chapter. Carlos had met someone, a teacher named Sophia, who worked with Iron Shield's Phoenix program. Marcus was teaching a community policing class at the university. Normal lives built on the foundation of extraordinary choices. At 10 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed with an alert. Iron Shield's social media had blown up. Video clips from her speech shared across platforms, hashtags trending, news outlets requesting interviews. The viral moment she'd feared at 13 was happening, whether she wanted it or not. Jack saw her face. What's wrong? We're trending. The speech is everywhere. Maya showed him her phone where notifications multiplied like rabbits. This is going to get big. Good. We can use the attention. More awareness means more funding, means helping more kids. Jack's pragmatism cut through Maya's anxiety. You're the face of this, whether you like it or not. Might as well use it for something that matters. Emma looked worried. She's 13. This kind of attention, the pressure. I can handle it. Maya surprised herself with the certainty. If it helps kids ask for help, if it makes one more person answer, it's worth it. The interview started the following week. Local news, then national. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News putting aside political differences to cover a story everyone could agree on. Bikers protecting children. Broken people building beauty from damage. Maya became a soundbite, a symbol, a shorthand for resilience that made her uncomfortable, but served a purpose. You're 13 now, but when you were 8, became every interviewer's opening line. Maya learned to navigate it, to tell the story without drowning in it, to remember that her trauma could be useful without letting it define her. The viral moment peaked 3 weeks after DC when a Hollywood producer reached out about a documentary, then a book deal, then Stanford's early outreach program for promising students. Would Maya consider applying in a few years? She said yes to the documentary. Iron Shield needed the visibility. No to the book deal. She was 13, not ready to write a memoir. And maybe to Stanford, too far away to think about when she still had high school ahead. Life found a rhythm, school and track practice, and Iron Shield volunteer work on weekends. Maya helped with intake calls, her voice familiar to scared kids who'd seen her speech and felt brave enough to reach out. She was good at it, knowing exactly what to say because she'd needed those exact words 5 years ago. Brandon visited for Thanksgiving, he and his mother finally feeling safe enough to return to California. Eric Mitchell had died in prison the previous year. Heart attack, the warden said, though rumors suggested prison justice had caught up with a child abuser. Sarah didn't cry at the news, neither did Brandon. Some deaths created relief instead of grief. The Thanksgiving dinner at Rosa's house held 30 people crammed around tables pushed together, bikers and families and survivors making chosen family visible. Jack carved turkey with Marcus's help. Carlos and Sophia, officially dating now, handled sides. Emma and Sarah worked the kitchen like a choreographed dance. Maya sat between Brandon and a new Iron Shield kid, a 10-year-old girl named Luna who'd come to them 2 months ago. Luna didn't talk much yet, still processing trauma too fresh to verbalize. But she stayed close to Maya, mimicking her movements, looking for safety and proximity. "You'll be okay," Maya told her quietly while adults argued good-naturedly about football. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but these people, they show up, they stay. You're safe here." Luna nodded, not quite believing but wanting to. After dinner, Jack stood with effort. His knees were going, 57 years of hard riding, catching up. He raised a glass of whiskey, waited for the room to quiet. "5 years ago, a little girl walked into a diner and changed all our lives. She asked for help and we answered. And that answer became this." He gestured around the room. "Family, purpose, redemption for people who thought they were too broken to be useful." He looked at Maya. "You saved us as much as we saved you, maybe more. You gave broken people permission to be whole, to matter, to do something good with the damage we carried." His voice roughened. "So this toast is to Maya, to courage, to asking for help, to showing up, to family we choose and children we protect and second chances we didn't think we deserved." "To Maya," 30 voices echoed. She felt her face burn, tears threatening, looked around the table at faces she knew better than her own reflection. Jack, who'd knelt beside an 80-year-old and promised forever. Carlos, who'd taught her to fix motorcycles and see beauty in broken things. Marcus, who'd stood between her and Eric Mitchell at career day. Rosa, who'd given her a home and taught her that survival required both strength and softness. Emma, who'd chosen her daughter over comfort, over fear, over everything. And the kids, Brandon and Luna and 8 others at the table, survivors at various stages of healing. They were the point, the reason, the proof that asking and answering could transform individual tragedy into collective salvation. Maya raised her own glass, sparkling cider, and spoke before thinking. "To family, real family, the kind that shows up." They drank to that. Winter passed into spring. Maya turned 14 in February, celebrated with motorcycle maintenance lessons from Jack and a helmet upgrade from Carlos. Roy died in March, peacefully in his sleep, 79 years old and finally at rest, when his funeral drew 300 bikers from across the country, a sea of leather and tears and roaring engines sending him off. Maya spoke at the service, talking about the 79-year-old man who'd shared mechanical wisdom and card tricks, who'd shown her that surviving terrible fathers didn't mean becoming terrible yourself. The casket was draped with his Hells Angels colors. The burial included a riderless motorcycle following the hearse, boots backward in the stirrups, the ancient symbol of a fallen warrior. She cried through the whole thing. So did Jack and Carlos and Marcus. So did 200 other hard men and women who'd learned from Roy that violence didn't have to be destiny, that you could be strong and gentle simultaneously, that protecting children was the most important thing broken people could do. After the burial, Jack gathered the core family, Maya, Emma, Carlos, Marcus, Rosa, and a dozen others. Roy left something for Iron Shield. His house, his bikes, his life insurance, everything. $500,000. The number hung in the air, impossible and transformative. He said, Jack's voice cracked, steadied. He said his whole life people told him he was worthless, that kids from violent homes became violent adults, that damage was destiny. But Iron Shield proved him wrong, showed him broken people could build beautiful things. He wanted his death to mean something, to help more kids escape what he couldn't. They used Roy's money to buy a building, a real headquarters for Iron Shield, not borrowed clubhouse space. 4,000 square feet in Riverside's industrial district, counseling rooms, office space, a community area, bunks for emergency housing. They named it Roy Bennett Center for Child Protection. The grand opening happened in May, attended by politicians and press and 300 children. Iron Shield had helped over 5 years. Maya cut the ribbon with scissors borrowed from Principal Anderson, the same scissors that had cut paper chains for Career Day 5 years ago, repurposed for this moment. Roy used to say broken things could be useful, Maya told the crowd. This building proves it. We're all broken here, damaged by things that shouldn't happen to anyone, especially not children. But we're using that damage, turning it into protection for others, making our pain purposeful. She looked at the building, this physical manifestation of asking and answering. Every child who walks through these doors will find safety, family, people who understand what it's like to survive, and they'll learn what Roy taught me, that surviving is just the beginning. The real work is living, thriving, becoming someone who helps others survive too. The ceremony ended with motorcycle engines, 50 bikes firing simultaneously, Roy's riderless Harley in the center position. The sound rolled across Riverside like thunder, announcing that broken people had built something beautiful. That one girl's courage and one man's choice to answer had changed 3,000 lives and counting. That evening, Maya sat on the roof of the new building with Jack, watching the sun set over a city that had witnessed her near death and her transformation. 5 years felt like a lifetime and a heartbeat simultaneously, time compressed by trauma and expanded by healing. "You ever regret it?" she asked. Saying yes that morning, Jack didn't answer immediately, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. "Regret implies I had a choice. Moment I saw you walk through that diner door, there was no choice. You needed help. I had to answer. But everything that came after, Iron Shield, the work, Roy dying knowing he mattered because of what we built, would you change any of it?" "Not 1 second. Jack's certainty was absolute. "You gave me purpose, Maya, you and every kid who came after. I was a ghost before you, just going through motions, waiting to die. Now I'm alive, present, useful." He looked at her. "You think I saved you, but kid, you saved me right back." They sat in companionable silence while the sky turned from blue to orange to purple to black. Below, Riverside came alive with evening lights. Somewhere in that sprawl of buildings and streets, children were being hurt. Families were fracturing. Violence was occurring in the dark places where nobody looked. But somewhere, too, people were reaching out, asking for help, finding Iron Shield's hotline or website or local chapter, discovering that broken people could become family, that asking wasn't weakness, that showing up mattered more than any credential or qualification. The work was endless. It would always be endless. But Maya had learned from Jack and Carlos and Marcus and Roy that endless work was better than no work, that imperfect help was better than perfect indifference, that showing up even when you couldn't fix everything was the whole point. She was 14 now, barely halfway through high school, years away from Stanford and engineering degrees, and the adult life waiting somewhere in the future. But she'd already built something that would outlive her. Iron Shield would continue long after she aged out, became a donor instead of a spokesperson, passed leadership to the next generation of survivors who'd learned to transform damage into purpose. Because that's what asking and answering did. It created ripples that spread outward in all directions, touching lives that would never know the original stone that disturbed the water. Maya was the stone. Jack and his family were the first ripple. 3,000 kids were the expanding circles. And somewhere, someone was watching those circles spread and finding courage to ask for help themselves, creating new ripples, new circles, new transformations. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Maya stood on the roof of Roy Bennett Center, looked at the stars emerging from darkening sky, and thought about the 8-year-old girl with a black eye who'd walked into a diner 5 years ago. That girl had been brave enough to ask the question that changed everything. And these people, these beautiful, broken, dedicated people, had been brave enough to answer. The answer echoed still, rolling across 5 years and 3,000 lives in 12 states and 7 countries, growing louder with each person who chose to show up. Not just for one day, forever.